Welcome to The Perfect Storm, episode 7, and things are on fire. Justin, Phil, welcome.
Well,
Kyle, thanks for coming, mate.
It's fine. Everything is fine. We are recording this on Tuesday, the 6th of August, and I had a little chat with the producers. This is actually news to Phil and Justin.
There we go.
We're actually going to launch this on YouTube tonight so people can watch it instantly.
Good stuff.
And when you hear it on the radio on Friday, you'll think to yourself, well, that's out of date.
Yeah, by a year.
That's out of date by a year. There's already been a nuclear war started, more stock markets crashing, and more civil wars. That's because you didn't listen on Tuesday when we released it on YouTube. So what we'll do from here forward is we will release it the same day we record it. And that can be a little bit unpredictable sometimes. So keep an eye on the YouTube channel, subscribe, notification bell, and you'll get it straight away. And then if you want to catch it on the Friday at 4:30 on Faith FM on the radio, you can do that as well. Does that sound good?
Sounds great, Kyle.
Get into it, mate.
Get into it. Let's recap how the Harris-Biden presidency... You could also just say, let's recap how the world is right now.
There's three big things happening as we're going to air this morning. Three big things. And they're big. Smallest of them all is England.
Yep. So
I've got my British passport holding mate Phil Yates here. Yates is a British name too.
British.
Just like Lawman, Yorkshire. Where's Yates from?
Yorkshire.
Yeah, Yorkshire too.
I'm Yorkshire. My
old man's adopted.
My
Yeah,
real
Scottish.
name, now this is just exclusive for the listeners on Faith FM. My real name is Ross.
what?
My dad was adopted Yates.
And that's Scottish too.
My
mate.
last name, not your
Real
first
name's
name.
Scottish. Anyway, England is erupted into race and religion-based violence.
Riots.
And you could see this coming because of the ridiculous levels of immigration that the globalists have wanted to impose upon a group of people, the middle class and below, who never asked for it, never wanted it. They love their country, their culture, and now they have other cultures trying to establish their culture. And, of course, you're going to have conflict. Duh. It's happening all over the world, France, Germany, all across Europe you're getting this, particularly with the immigration from Islamic countries, Phil. What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't get him.
More than-
Iran, but we've got to talk about this and the economy, the crashing stock market, which is fundamentals of the stock market are, again, horrendous. It's just inflated from fake money, but that's another story.
There's someone new. Look, that stock market crash. What do you know? Buffett withdrew or sold.
55% of his Apple stock.
He just sold it
that-
right before
It's
it
trouble. You investing on the stock market right now,
Mind you,
unless you're shorting it, you'd be game.
He's
You'd be
been
very
selling it
brave.
for the last 3 years.
Yeah, everyone's been saying it's coming.
Yep.
More than just England, which we will talk about more, there's Venezuela and the situation there.
Oh, Bangladesh. How far are we going to go? How long are we
So
got?
specifically Venezuela with the election, and the polling booths being shut before the polling was actually shut
It was so bad.
by the military, and then the memes around that time were you can vote your way into communism, but you can't vote your way out of it.
Yeah, you got to use violence, unfortunately.
And then of course there is the accusation from what's his name, Maduro, that it's a CIA coup, basically.
They'd never do that.
Which unfortunately they've been caught doing multiple times already.
They've perfected it, actually.
So it's
So what do they care about Venezuela?
Oil. Oils ain't oil, Sol.
Yeah.
Biggest oil producer in the world, I think. Even bigger than Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, well.
Venezuela.
Potential-
That affects the price of what you're putting in your car.
Yeah, America's got a lot of oil too. They're just not using it.
Well, you're not allowed because it doesn't affect the environment if you get it from somewhere else. But if you get it from where you live, that's bad.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Potential nuclear war. Israel, Iran, Ukraine, Russia, China. Did they leave China off the list? China, Russia, and Iran. friends.
What
got-
Israel
look-
did for the people at home who have been watching the Olympics. I haven't been watching the Olympics, so I'll tell you what I know.
It doesn't appeal to him.
Oh, I love it when Australia wins, but
Give us an update of what they've missed.
Israel assassinated. It seems clear. And they haven't come out and said all of it. It seems clear that Mossad, the CIA of Israel, have gone in and assassinated while he's in Iran in one of their great buildings. They've blown him up in his bedroom somehow. That's the leader of Hamas, political leader. He's gone under the nose of the Iranians. And then 6 hours later, they kill a guy in Beirut who's the head of the military force of the Hezbollah. So Hamas in the south there that they've been fighting with now for months. And they're opening up a new front in the north with Lebanon. And they're much more aligned with Iran, and they got some serious weaponry and set up there. Israel, they're going for gold here. They think they're in an Olympics of warfare. So, and the disturbing thing to me is the Israeli Prime Minister the week before addressed Congress, got so many standing ovations, and he's had meetings with the White House while he's there, and then he comes home and assassinates the chief negotiator of Hamas.
Did he get the green light?
Of course he did. I wasn't there, but it seems clear to me he did. So
talk me through Iran's, what kind of weaponry they got? What's the chances of them
missiles
coming,
on missiles,
attacking, war?
They're not going to go across the desert because they've got to get through Jordan and all these other countries. So they're not going to invade that way.
No.
But they're going to use, they seem to have set up very heavily towards missiles and drones. And they're a big producer of drones. The Russians are using their drones in Ukraine. And they shot down a couple of American drones over the years, and they did some copying, and they've got some pretty cost-effective drones. They're very cheap compared to the American ones, but do a lot of damage. But the last time they went at Israel, it was embarrassing for Iran.
They didn't really hit the target.
Israel used their F-35s, the French, US military ships, the British ships, and their own Iron Dome, and they shot down just about everything that the Iranians threw at them. So the Israelis feel pretty invincible. But if you think, okay, you've just assassinated the guy in their bedroom, in their town, and you've been humiliated every time, what are they going to do this time? I think they're going to go for it here. Iran is really being provoked. And what are they going to throw at Israel? Probably they're going to get out the big stuff.
Kitchen sink.
If they do get through and they wipe out a section of Tel Aviv, or I don't want to go to say what could happen. I don't want to preempt anything, but if they really do some damage, America has a green light then, because they don't like the fact that Iran, or part of America, they funded Iran. They don't like the fact they're going to get nuclear weapons, and the Israelis are dead against it. So this is their chance to actually stop that now, and there's only one way of doing that, and it's a full-on war. And behind Iran, just in case it sounds like an easy walk in the park, look at the size of Iran compared to Israel.
And Tehran is where this Hamas leader was killed. So right up here from Israel, way down here.
Massive. They've got China and Russia as their allies now. They've been helping each other. So this could very easily become a global conflict, and I would shudder to think what that means. I hope none of this happens. But are cool heads going to win this day? Not likely. They've really provoked them, and their allies Yemen, the Houthis, have just wrecked the trade of the ships in the Red Sea with their drones and everything. Israel bombed them the other day in their harbour. They're going for gold here. This is looks like to me, this is on, and this is not an epiphany. Everyone you listen to in the media is saying the same thing. It's on, and I said ages ago, the election in the US is the big driving influence in the world, and if the Democratic side are in such trouble, they change their leader out. If there's now a war, that's a real wild card that could help. It could hinder as well. But and then behind that, the stock market. They've been holding it together with duct tape and chewing gum and everything and pumping it up, but the air's coming out of it. And I tell you.
So everyone's talking about recession, but you reckon depression.
I'm just being negative, aren't I?
Usually.
Sorry. It's the debt levels. The debt levels are absurd. We did a show, look at Perfect Storm number 2, where we had Caleb in, our CPA, and we talked about the economy and the underlying factors of it, that it's broken and they're just trying to tape it up and keep it working.
Yep.
But fundamentally, the wheels are going to fall off. And because they didn't let it correct itself in 2008 with the GFC, we all lived through it. They threw the Keynesian theory at it. Keynesian economics is just print money, and everything will come good. Well, they've never stopped printing. They've never stopped this debt. So it's going to be far worse. So, yeah, I do say that, Phil. Sorry.
What's interesting is, let's go back to the top of the pile. The election is going to mean a lot around the world. Joe Biden's top economic advisor is leaving the White House, and he's actually joining the Kamala Harris campaign. He wants to help the Kamala Harris campaign, so he's just quit his job in the middle of a crash.
He ain't gonna make it.
This confuses me, right? Joe Biden's still president.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's still president.
Yeah.
Technically, legally.
But I haven't seen him
Weekend at Burners.
anywhere. I haven't seen him anywhere. He's not even.
Well, he
Everything's
has
about
appeared.
Kamala.
He's a bit taller. Who knows? I don't know what's going on, but they're just getting through now. No one cares. Kamala Harris could use the 25th Amendment to replace him.
Who's running the country?
Who's been running the country for the last 3
That's what
years?
everyone's asking.
I call it a massive scandal. I got, Rick Hergen squared me up the other day. You can't say it's the biggest scandal in history. It's right up there. Who has been running the United States if he hasn't been lucid enough to do so? And he clearly isn't lucid enough to run the country. He couldn't run a bath. So how's he going to run the country? And the big question, who is running the country?
That's the question. Everyone's lips.
And we don't know. We certainly don't know on the perfect storm. We have our suspects.
So the 25th Amendment of the United States Constitution addresses issues related to the presidential succession and disability. It clarifies that the vice president becomes president if the president dies, resigns, or is removed from office through impeachment, or is disabled, I guess.
And here's the thing. August is the Democrats having their little party where they officially select their nominee. It's
Do you know the date?
18th, I think it is.
18th.
I'm not really sure, but it's the 18th. At the 18th, Kamala is still not official till that day.
So you got a theory on who you reckon's going to be the next running, or who's running?
I just want to say to the listeners at home, the Bible's true. What I say is my own opinions. Unless I'm quoting a scripture, don't worry about what I say.
And what we're talking about today would be in reference, Matthew 24. It says wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise up against nation. There'll be famines, pestilence, earthquakes.
It's of tremendous significance what's going on.
Yep.
Because globalism, the Klaus Schwab and the Great Reset and all these things, I would hear people on Bible prophecy saying that's all the Antichrist and all that. I said that's not the problem. That's not what the Bible's identifying. I have said all along it's the United States and them turning to putting religion into politics and into the government, and the religion is Christian religion. I don't think any religion running a country is a good idea.
Well, you're not
run
looking
churches.
to Kamala and Biden and Michelle to do that. You're looking at Trump to do that.
We're theorizing here. We don't know because we don't know the future, but we know that will happen. So at the moment, I don't think the globalist side, and they're all, as ones you mentioned, all globalists. They don't believe in nation states and
or God,
or all sorts of stuff. Though I guess they have some gods, but that side is losing in Bible prophecy. In my interpretation of Bible prophecy, is it this particular election? I don't know that. I'm speculating, but there's a bit going on, and if there's a war break out, and it seems clear that it's getting escalated, and we could have de-escalated, but what did we do? Amped it up again. They're trying to provoke this.
So this has got to happen. Is there going to be a worldwide call for peace, do you think, as far as Bible prophecy is concerned?
Peace and safety is what they call for in Timothy.
And then we'll
chapter
say
3, and sudden destruction comes, it says. So I don't know how that plays out in this scenario, but what I do know is the world. We do this show on Tuesday to play it later. They're going to put it on tonight, apparently, because a couple of days is like a month now. Everything is out of date. Those riots in England started with the murder of those 3 young girls and 8 others who were critically wounded. That was only a week ago.
If you're talking that, like it's
Tell us about
mess.
England, Phil, and what's going on there, because you have a British passport. You've spent a lot of time over there.
This has been brewing. I was over there in 2004 to 2010.
Right.
Me and my wife lived there for 5 years, and this was brewing then. Like there was bombings in London on different train stations.
Who was doing what bombing?
Yeah. Extremists,
Just tell us.
extremists,
Just tell us,
extremists that call themselves Islam were claiming to do the bombing. Were claiming that this is done by us.
They were trying to further their cause by having violent attacks.
I was at a predominantly Muslim school,
teaching
at that school. It became predominantly Muslim. It wasn't originally, but as migration happened and became
immigration,
and I had really good conversations with the imam.
It's a lot of good people.
A lot of them are very, very peaceful. And hold true, and they really want to do good. If you read the Quran, there are things that are questionable towards.
Let me just throw this out because I don't want to dance around this. I've been in a mosque over in Tajikistan, built by the Saudis, beautiful mosque. And I listened to the imam, all the dudes there. In the mosque, they'll either have a Quran up in the pulpit where they speak or a sword, depending on how it was established. They either did it by teaching or they did it by violence, but they got it established.
Yep.
They have either option. Biblical Christians don't have either option.
No, they don't.
We do teaching or
in
teaching.
America, the biblical Christians think they do.
Well, the Dark Ages, the great state church of the Dark Ages, Christian, they did it by violence as well. In fact, Islam and Catholicism back in the Dark Ages were nearly identical, only different patterns of belief, but the way they behaved. and you can see it's coming back to the world. Look at
I
England.
I used to go to football games, and I'd a lot of mates would take me there, and we'd get chatting, and you'd be at the bar afterwards, and I'd have my lemonade, and they'd have their beers, and we'd be chatting away, and as they drunk more, they got more and more honest, and the truth that came out that they were so afraid that more people would die, and we're talking about Indigenous Britain, more people that would die, that they will protect their country, and they will go around, and it was shocking because you go around, we're going to bomb every mosque in London. These are the football hooligans that are going to do this, and they're going to go around because we want to protect our safety, and they've claimed that they're doing the bombing, so we're going to chase after them. This has been brewing. This isn't just a thing that's happened overnight. This has been brewing for years, like years and years and years.
Yeah, all over the globe.
And now it's come to action. I think it's bad what they're doing. They're just going and finding, you find a Muslim on the street or someone that looks like a Muslim, let's beat them up. Or you find a white guy or someone that looks like
It's terrible.
They'll beat them up. It's just it's reckless at the moment. But the real enemy, I believe, that everyone can probably agree on is the government. The government of England aren't letting people have a say, don't have any kind of border policy, really. Everyone comes in.
They've provoked it.
And when you get a whole heap of people in a melting pot.
And I just have to say, for the viewers or the listeners, violence and human beings are never far apart. And we can all say it's we should never go to violence, and we shouldn't, because if you live by the sword, Jesus said you'll die by the sword. But it is been a part of human history. You cannot deny it, and you've got to work very hard to avoid it. They've worked very hard to provoke it, in my mind, what they've done and what they've allowed. Of course, this is going to end up in violence. And to bring Bible prophecy into this is my take on where we're going with it, is the Christian West and the conservative Christians are getting taught how to behave by their enemies. And their enemies are intolerant. Their enemies are turning to be violent. So what will that do? If you are fighting that enemy, it's going to make you behave in a similar pattern and similar ways.
And when people feel unsafe, they will retaliate, and they'll make sure that they'll try and make it a safe place. But this
part
is
of being human, unfortunately. Violence isn't far away, and it's bad. And I just pray it never comes to Australia, where we live. But I go to England. I feel at home in England. It's the heritage over there. My name, my gene pool is all UK. So I hate that this is happening there, but it's been very foreseeable. Very foreseeable.
It's been brewing for a long time.
And same with Israel and Iran. Is this an epiphany over this? No. This has been brewing forever. But the level of weaponry, the Iranians have tunnels into mountains. You can Google this, watch this online. Tunnels built into mountains, just filled with thousands upon thousands of missiles and all sorts of weaponry that they've hidden in mountain ranges to avoid them being destroyed. This is not like when America in Desert Storm invades Iraq and they just march in through there. These guys have got some serious weaponry, and they've worked very hard at building a nuclear weapon. It's debatable how far they are down that road. Once one side uses a nuke, this is just a horrid scenario.
Yeah.
Because the way your enemy fights is ultimately going to determine the way you do.
Yep.
You have to match it or get out of it. And this is the world we're living. If you're stressed about this and worried about this, I think you've got reason to be. But I have to tell you, look at this on the screen here. This is the drone being manufactured, and some of them that they've already built there, ready to go. I have to tell you that Jesus is the only one that's got the future secured. If we leave man to his own devices, it's going to end up in bloodshed and more. Bloodshed and more.
Where to from here for England? We started on England. Let's finish that up. What the police? It is true that in the videos that I've seen, the police don't seem to be stopping a certain group running around the streets with knives.
I don't know how the police are going to keep their. Why would you remain a police officer over there at the moment?
The problem is everyone's got a phone, everyone's videoing, and with videos going online, more anger is made. Like if you see, whatever side it is.
How do you fix it? That's what Kyle's asking.
That's what I'm saying. Like, where do you go from here? Do you just is it a lockdown? Everybody goes home and nobody's allowed on the streets?
Oh, they've already kind of declared an emergency.
But how are they going to?
They don't have the resource.
But how are they going to police that?
There's too many people.
It's basically a civil war.
I lived in Los Angeles I moved over there in 2005 and I spent 3 years living in LA, and famously they had the LA riots, and my neighbors tell me, buy a shotgun, have a gun, why? Well, there's 30,000 police officers in the LAPD at the time. There's 430,000 gang members. So if ever there's an earthquake and the cops can't get there, the gangs just take over.
Yep. And
it's thuggery, it's violence, and you can't rely on the police. So they said, you need a shotgun just in case there's an earthquake. And I think, wow, I'm not used to this. I grew up with guns and all that, but that was, chasing pigs out in the bush. This is just self-protection. England doesn't have the gun problem that America does, but it's just going to be there's not enough police to control the populace if they really do go for it.
And you got more and more police in.
You'll have to bring in the army.
More and more police in England.
That's a LA
quitting
right you put out.
And going, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore, because they're in the fire line. Like both camps are fighting the police as well.
Yep.
Burning hotels. They're just
anywhere
crazy.
Immigrants are, they're blaming that. That was all started from one event. Rodney King. This is all started from one event, which is the death, the horrid murder of those little girls. Who can do that to little girls? Like, you're sick. And no wonder they're angry. Everyone in the world felt it. But it is the straw on the camel's back.
Yep.
Unending immigration that the British people don't want.
Well,
I don't know how you fix it.
That's a pickle. And so Venezuela as well, I mentioned, because there's a number of videos of the police literally taking off their policing uniforms because the groundswell is just too much and there's nothing they can do. The police are basically stuck inside buildings, taking off their police uniforms and surrendering to the people, saying, we're with you.
Yeah, they can't hold them. They're outnumbered.
And what's that called?
The mob winning. I don't know what you call it, but it's mob violence and popularism and nationalism. I've said it for ages. It's the angry mob, and globalism is your elites at the top. They're bullies. They use their power to bully, but they don't have the numbers. And the globalists will never hold the populace and nationalists because they have the sheer numbers. Sheer numbers. You can't hold it. The police, there's not enough police in England.
No.
And those I'm watching these police officers. Some of them are quite small ladies, and they're getting bricks thrown at them. Imagine my wife's a police officer about the same size, and I'm thinking she would be stressing out of her head. She wouldn't cope with that. You wouldn't want to go back to work to get out there to have some thugs beat you up. they're not going to hold this. They could very easily lose this. It depends on the leadership. You go to Tommy Robinson and you go to these guys and you say, guys, we need this under control. You go to the imams and all that and say, listen, we need this under control. That's how you try and fix this in its current crisis. But the underlying problem is immigration, and they need to address that and respect their borders and don't overwhelm a population at any one time.
But the Prime Minister to come out and blame aside doesn't
great.
help.
What did he say?
He said this is
Right-wing extremists are the cause of all this. That's not the cause. That's a symptom. And there are so many people, media personalities, famous people, that support the principle. They don't support the violence that they're using. That's bad. But the principle of they want their country back, they want it to be Britain still, is one that is not a right-wing position. That's actually pretty well in the centre.
I don't even think he named a side. I don't think he blamed a side. I think he just blamed a political opposition.
Right-wing, he said.
Yeah. I wouldn't say the guy's coming out of right-wings extremists.
He's really been found to be wanting. He didn't get a honeymoon, this dude. This new Prime Minister. He's been, what's it saying, Daniel? Been weighed in the balances and found wanting. And I'm not sure he's going to recover from this. We could get a resignation if he can't get this under control.
Can they do what Australia does and sack him and just put a new party leader in?
Yeah, of course. We're on their Westminster system. You've got to have a better one, but and that kind of feeds the mob. If they know their bad behaviour can change that, well, guess what they're going to do? They're going to keep behaving badly. They need to calm down and settle this down and resolve this in a sensible way and stop all this crazy stuff where just innocent people are getting caught up in it. And it'll only dig it deeper. The remarkable thing in Ireland,
oh no,
they're carrying the Irish Republic flag, the three colours.
Yeah.
Green, white and yellow, isn't it? Or whatever it is.
Orange.
And then they have the Unionists, which is the part of Great Britain, the Union, which are the Protestants in the north. They're marching together. And these guys used to bomb and murder each other, the Orangemen, in the Protestants. They are marching together down the road against this immigration stuff.
One of the reporters who was interviewing, what's going on here? She's like, "Are you guys Catholic? Aren't you guys
here it is. That's incredible. Those two flags and the IRA, which is the Republican, and the Orangemen and the Protestants in the north, they had to have constant police protection to stop the violence breaking out at any one time. And there's horrid things happened over the years. They're now united to defend their country against what the globalists are imposing by just letting the world flood into their country.
So all this political instability then is leading to economic uncertainty.
But what led the stock market correction we've had in the last couple of days, and it's probably going to bounce. Usually it goes bad for a while and then
it'll bounce and then
bounce back up, and everyone thinks it's all good again. But fundamentally, it's not. It's been inflated with fake money. It's not real. It's the economy could be going terrible, and the stock market's still been going up. What? So. They're nervous. They're very nervous. And if there's a war on top of this, Kyle, what happens then? The only two stocks that didn't go down on the Australian ASX were
Lockheed Martin, was it?
No, Australian.
Australian,
not
sorry.
on Australian were gold companies, gold mining. Just saying, Phil.
Little hint.
Just saying.
Buy gold.
If you can afford it. It's already gone, mate.
I think it was Lockheed and Boeing or something, basically military. And
yeah, the military stuff, they're still going up too.
Military stock.
But in Australia, we don't have a lot of those sort of stocks. We have gold, and this is not good, folks. This is not good
So biblically,
you're not going to get interest rate rises will be the upside.
Yeah,
but
they'll
there's
go down.
going to, the unemployment rate in the US is what triggered it.
Mm.
The unemployment it's all of a sudden jumped, and they think, oh, that's a leading into a recession normally, and so that panicked the market, and that was enough, that panic, which then panic produces more panic. We'll see.
What we're talking about biblically today is more Matthew 24. You know, lawlessness, wars and rumors of wars.
Signs.
All these signs Jesus said, because his disciples asked, what did disciples ask? I've got it written here. Tell us when these things will be and what will be the sign of your coming in the end of the age. And then Jesus goes through and goes, wars, rumors of wars, nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and then they will deliver up and kill you. You'll be hated by all the nations. Then false prophets will rise, then lawlessness and love will grow cold.
That's summary. His first 14 verses are a summary.
Yep.
But then he answers the question, what will be the sign of both the destruction of Jerusalem and the end of the age, which happened for the same reason. Jerusalem rejected Jesus.
That's right.
The world's rejecting Jesus. So they happen for the same reason. So Jesus gives a single answer, and he gives 5 big signs from verse 15 onwards of what was going to happen before he comes back to the world. And they're cracking. They're very specific, because I used to preach this stuff, and I'd go, earthquakes in diverse places and famines and pestilence and nation rise against nation. They're all big summaries. He gets super specific from verse 15 onwards, 14, 15 onwards.
And one of them big signs is the gospel being preached to the world. So our listeners out there, stand up. Tell people about it. Now's the time people are going to ask questions.
And to the preppers, you might be hiding your tins of food in the bunker you built or something and getting ready. It's good to prepare, but the most important thing you can do to prepare is not actually hiding tins of food or ammunition. It's spiritually prepared. If you're spiritually prepared, you can get through anything. You can go through a fiery furnace. You can stand. You can walk on water if you need to. But if you're not spiritually prepared, you're in big trouble right now. This is coming in.
This is a thing that Jesus, through this Matthew 24, constantly says over and over again, don't be deceived. I think one of the first things he says when the disciples ask him is don't be deceived.
And we want to offer a Bible marking guide to the folks at home today that actually deals with what Phil's brought up in Matthew 24. There's a whole study on that. You can actually, what is faith? How's faith going to get me through? There's a whole study on that. How do I pray? There's a whole study on that. And you can do this yourself at home with your own Bible.
Yep.
So Kyle, how do they get hold of one of these Bible marking guides so they can mark their own Bible?
Yep. So they text the word study. That's study, S-T-U. How do you spell study? S-T-U-D-Y.
You're not dyslexic.
0482.
He's amongst friends here.
I can read a number. Get ready for me to read a number. I'll look at it on the wall while I read it. 0482 082 876. Text the word study to that number, and we will get a study guide, Bible marking guide.
It's a really good study guide. It covers pretty much everything you want to know.
And I say to a lot of Christians out there, I was door knocking this dude one time. He was a preacher, and he called me exclusive and all that because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. And I said, oh, really? I said, mate, I'm at your house. You're not at mine. I don't take a step back. And we were going for it. And he said, why does your church exist? And I said, to teach the Bible to people at the last days and all that, to prepare them. He says, I already have a Bible. I said, in Matthew 24, it says, when you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, let him in Judea flee to the mountains. I said, who is the abomination of the desolation right at the last time? One of the great signs.
Yep.
He said, I don't know. I said, I know you don't know. That's why I'm knocking on your door, because I want to tell you. And to the folks at home, you might read your Bible and all that stuff. I pray you do. You might have never picked it up. you need to know it because you'll get deceived. You'll get caught up in this stuff. This stuff is the air you're breathing is filled with deception at the moment.
Yep. People will claim and they'll make good predictions. And they'll claim to be the Christ.
Yep.
So, a couple of texts that came in. If you have a text, send us a message on that same number, 0482082876. Couple of texts, guys. Justin and team, hello. I think it doesn't matter what sexual preference a person is. After all, they're all sinners as much as I am. What is judged is, do you believe in Jesus Christ? Comments?
Oh, the sin is sin in the Bible, and we're all sinners. And whether you're heterosexual or homosexual or whatever sexual, you're a sinner, and you need a savior. And the question, I don't know what the text is inferring, but the question is, how do I relate to sin after I've accepted Jesus? It's my battle then to not submit to sin, to rage against it for the rest of my life, because it wants to take me. It sits there like in Genesis, the first one. It wants to, wants to own you, wants to have you, but you have to resist it. And your orientation. You could be a heterosexual and you like sleeping around. Well, the Bible says that's sin, and so I have to make different choices, and it'll be hard and it'll be difficult, but I know that God's power and strength will enable me to do that. It won't save me because I'm sinless. I have a Savior, but I have to walk with Him. I don't, anyone can say they're a Christian. It's your actions, whether are you actually striving and trying to follow God.
Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments.
That's a perfect.
And you're not saved. You're not saved by you're saved by your belief in Jesus Christ. The text is perfectly right, but we've got to know what our sin is.
Yep.
We can't just say this isn't a sin because the world accepts it not to be a sin. No, we go to the Bible. The Bible is the only thing that gives us truth. And we look at that and we go, is it or is it not a sin? We've got to work out our sin, and we've got to call it for its right name.
Yep. And it's not one little group has special. They're the only ones to sin at work, mate. I'm the biggest singer in the shop.
No, they don't have.
We're all sinners.
If Australia followed the 10 Commandments, it would be the greatest country in the world. Pastor Phil, you only mentioned the last 6. Don't forget the first 4.
Yeah. No, that's right. The first 4 are as important. I'd even say that to God, idolatry is one of the most important commandments to Him. You look at the Old Testament, He's always pulling up Israel for idolatry.
Have no other gods before me.
Idolatry.
Yeah.
And, as a Seventh-day Adventist, the Sabbath is an important commandment to me because I love family time. I love taking time off. I love spending a whole day with my Saviour and my family and the people I love at church. So first 4
for the
are
folks at
so
home,
important.
Commandment number 1, don't have any other gods before me. Commandment number 2, don't make for yourself a graven image.
Right.
Commandment number 3, don't take the Lord's name in vain. And the 4th is remember Him as the Creator through keeping the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath.
Yep.
They're very fundamental
And
stuff.
then you got in Deuteronomy where it's the reference is I brought you out of Egypt.
The reason is not as the Creator, but as a Savior or Redeemer.
Right.
Yep, it's good. Love the text. So keep
great
sending
text.
them.
Yeah.
I think Carolina sent a text, didn't she? Didn't she
called
call me a bear?
She called you a good bear.
Hey, Carolina.
Yeah.
The red bear.
Yeah, the red bear. And so this is the other book they're offering. If you want the study guides, please send the word study through. But if you are noticing that there is a global war going on, then you might be interested in this book, The Great Controversy, The Global War on Freedom. And to get that book, just text the word STORM.
STORM.
Thanks, Phil. To 0482 082 876.
And by the way, the author, it's just had a movie made about him.
Yep.
Coming out the pictures on the movies.
The Hopeful.
The Hopeful on October 17.
Go and see it.
October 17. Awesome.
But you can get both books, can't you, Kyle?
Oh, if you want.
Yeah.
We don't discriminate here.
Nope.
You can have 2. So, thanks, guys. we'll see how much things progress by Friday and whether or not we have to do another episode. But like I said, catch this on YouTube live on a Tuesday night now.
Yep.
Or whenever it's made, and then on the radio on Friday.
Pray for the world. Pray,
Yep.
people. Pray like never before for your family, your friends, and the whole globe. Leaders.
All right, we'll finish it there. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.